AITA for telling my husband that he absolutely ruined the birth of our child. Hi everyone. Our daughter is now 8 weeks old, so obviously this whole argument has gone on a very, very long time. We both have been holding grudges, and neither of us think that we are wrong. My husband does not know I am posting this, so I am going to keep it as anonymous as possible. So when I got pregnant with my daughter, my husband started in immediately telling me that I should have a home birth. I really do not know why he was so adamant on it, but he was. At first I brushed him off and told him I would think about it because I was only 6 weeks pregnant, and the birth seemed so far off. Of course, it came quickly, and my husband would literally speak over me at doctor's appointments when my doctor would ask if I had a birth plan. This caused a few arguments between us in those 39 weeks of pregnancy, but I never really changed my mind. Eventually, my husband's mother sat down and talked to me, and she told me all of the reasons why they did not want me to go to a hospital for the birth. I expressed my concerns about, safety of the baby and myself, but just like my husband, she brushed me off. I ended up telling my husband that I would take myself to the hospital when it was time, and that I did not want a home birth. He acted as if he didn't hear me. We met with a doula who was also very pushy. I felt overwhelmed and not supported at all. I was 36 weeks at that point. So, when I went into labor, I was 39 weeks, and I begged, absolutely begged my husband to take me to the hospital where my doctor is. He wouldn't. He spoke to me condescendingly and called the doula instead. I was in labor for about 3 days, active labor for around the last 22 hours. I cried the whole time. I just felt something was wrong. I was scared, and oftentimes they left me alone. The doula told me that if active pushing in labor reached 24 hours, I had to go into the hospital. I remember thinking that I could not decide which was worse, staying in labor for another 2 hours or having my baby right there. When she was finally out, I don't even remember wanting to hold her. I just remember crying out of relief. Obviously, I am okay now, but I did not have a good experience. On my first appointment after birth with my doctor, she was very shocked I had the baby. She was concerned. I was so upset. I told my husband that he absolutely ruined it for me. I truly never want to go through that again. I hear mothers say that they forget all the pain the second they have the baby, but I didn't. I love my daughter so much, but it was horrible, and it was entirely his fault. So, I told him that several times. He rolls his eyes every time and tells me how mothers are strong, and how I am not trying to be strong. I told him that if we ever have another baby, which he wants, that I will never do a home birth ever again. His response is, "We'll see." I cannot possibly be TA here, can I? Everyone around me is acting like this is so normal, but it's not. Is it? I, 41 million, have been dating my ex-girlfriend, 39F, for nearly 6 years. Our relationship was a good one. 4 years ago, I informed her family and friends I was going to propose to her while we were on a family vacation and received their blessing and well wishes. The night I proposed, I tried to make the night as memorable and perfect as possible. I asked her after a nice dinner surrounded by the family, and she said, "No, not yet anyways." I was quite hurt, honestly, and went back to our room to think things out and not overreact. A few hours later, she came to the room and asked me what was wrong and why I left the group. We had a fairly long conversation as to my feelings and her reason to deny my proposal. Turns out she didn't think I was ready for the commitment just yet. So I took her thoughts to heart and informed her I understand her reasoning. However, I was raised in a way where you take a no for a no, not a maybe next time. She asked me to just wait a bit longer until we were in a stable place, and I agreed. 8 to 10 months later, she started dropping hints that she was ready to be married. I can't wait for our wedding. Our wedding is going to be spectacular. I am so looking forward to my dad walking me down the aisle, etc. A little over a year since my first proposal, I decided to propose again, this time just us together after a wonderful date night. When I opened the ring box, she got really quiet and once again said, "No, not yet. Maybe a little more down the line." After this second refusal, I fell out of love with her. It sounds cold, but it was the truth. When we got back home, I slept in our guest bedroom and spent the rest of the night thinking of our relationship. The next morning, she asked why I didn't sleep with her in our bedroom, and I told her the truth and informed her that I think we need to end the relationship. I informed her that I take marriage very seriously, and I do not want to be lead on. And this time, this no, was the final no on the subject. I gave her a month to find a new place to live, and since then I have been receiving texts and emails from her friends and family informing me I am a heartless bastard and trying to get me to give her more time and not be a callous asshole. My friends have my back on this and understand why I ended the relationship. AITA? Edit. I have the time mixed up in reverse. I proposed after 4 years the first time. I apologize for the confusion. AITA for allowing my wife to pick my son's names and not letting my family call him a westernized nickname. We live in England. Wife is South Asian, and I am white British, late 20s F&M. We have young boy twins, just under 2 years old. Names are important, and we don't mind who sees this, so we're using exact first names but not surname. I had no name preferences, am uninventive, and have a boring British name myself. Think John James Jacob Smith. Not really, but basically. With our kids, they both have my surname Smith, and from day one I said I wanted her pick on first names, and she chose lovely names from her culture that I fell in love with. So our boys are Ramin Navroz Smith and Rustam Parvez Smith, which means joyous New Year and victorious hero in its Parsi origins. We liked that they were similar-ish without being the same. The boys will live in the UK, so obviously we have no problem with either shortening their name or going by a nickname at school, as long as it's their choice. Plus, it's not likely they'll do it for racialized reasons. We live in very diverse London. Problem: boys are not identical, and like many mixed-race siblings, they look a bit different. They have similar features, but Ramin has dark hair and eyes like his mum, and Rustam has light hair and eyes like me. They're both ethnically ambiguous and very young. If you're thinking in terms of white passing, you would say Rustam will find it easier to pass, while Ramin a bit harder. We don't micromanage our toddlers' racial traits, so haven't given much thought to it. Unfortunately, my family, except my parents, seem to have given this too much thought. Seal started it by repeatedly commenting that Ramin looked like a Ramin but Rustam didn't look like a Rustam, and we were just... but let it go. Then she and my brother start calling him Russell as a nickname, get extended fam to do it to the point he starts answering to it, and people use the nickname in captions or texts. We said no multiple times. We put our foot down and said only my parents could see either boy till they knocked the Russell shit off. Cue flood of tears from SIL and blame from others, telling us it was just well-meaning nicknaming, that her 3-year-old daughter came up with it and that we're oversensitive. I feel we're going insane as other than my parents. Everyone seems on their side and saying we're draconian. We don't care if the boys want a nickname at any point, but they're babies. And I just can't buy it has nothing to do with race when they're doing it to the blonde kid and not the darker one. I also can't buy that their child gave the name because of the above, plus, what 3-year-old comes up with Russell? Our line, untrained. We do not want this weird difference to exist between the boys before they even comprehend race. We think it's damaging long-term to give one boy a white name just because he's blonde, especially as the two do actually look different. But maybe we are too close to it, and so many people keep telling us it's harmless, we're overthinking. Help. Edit. I get having a difference of opinion, but I do think the 5 or 6 commenters calling me a race traitor for letting the boys get Parsi middle names, reducing the white population in London intermarrying between cultures, giving the kids Parsi names while living in the UK, all need to get a grip and take a few deep breaths. It is not a sign of a healthy and normal mind to get this angry over mixed-race relationships, and I don't think my children are going to grow up hating the white race because I did not give them John as a middle name. A fun history lesson. Parsis, aka descendants of Zoroastrians expelled from the Middle East, are necessarily a globally dispersed ethnic group due to said historical expulsion. They are concentrated in South Asia but exist all over the world. As such, there is no such thing as a Parsi homeland I can send my children to just because Barry on Reddit thinks race mixing is wrong. Also, reading this whole thing and your only takeaway being damn these race traitors may say more about your own unsatisfactory upbringing than my children checks notes not having the middle name John. Have a nice day, and I hope you can one day move a little closer to being well-adjusted and not completely unhinged.